of the building, shots had been heard.
At least 32 people have been shot dead at a university in Virginia. It's the worst mass shooting at a campus in American history.
I think there's a lot of concern on campus in the wake of Virginia Tech and the shooting in northern Illinois that campuses aren't as safe as they used to be.
The gun dealer who sold one of the 2 guns used in the Virginia Tech shootings was on the campus Thursday night. Eric Thompson spoke in support of a campaign to allow concealed weapons on college campuses.
There's still time for 21 people to get shot in that classroom by a guy with 2 handguns and a shotgun.
A gun or not. It is about the student's right to symbolic speech.
I think there's a real trend developing where people who have pro-gun speech on campus are particularly seeing some problems.
This was publicized. They knew the students were going to do this. So did this violate the students' constitutional rights to free speech?
I think there's a fear among academia. They're uncomfortable about certain terms being used or certain speech being used. The universities are where the free exploration of ideas are supposed to take place.
There's a lot of emotional charged arguments on both sides, and it's hard to take everything out of that context. You have one side basically saying, it's guns that brought all this death here, and the other side saying, like, if you don't carry a gun, you're in danger of dying. And I think that's complete crap on both sides.
The reaction on the right today is that we've got to figure out a way to get more guns onto campuses.
It was meant to be a protest over the ban on concealed weapons on college campuses.
But it's the fact they're using both their First and Second Amendment rights together that has some a little nervous.
People are afraid, and I understand that, but at the same time, we need to use logic and reason in order to determine, what's a real threat on campus, and I think sometimes that's fallen by the wayside with this issue.
I got connected with YCT, Young Conservatives of Texas, and decided to start a chapter here on campus at my school. We had to set up a booth for the activities mart, and on the flyer was the top 10 gun list. And about an hour or 2 into the activities mart, the student activities director walks up to me, grabs the flyers and says, what is this? These are inappropriate. And I was like, well, why? I said, well, I can pass these out, First Amendment right, I have freedom of speech. She didn't agree. The meeting didn't go well, obviously. And she's like, well, do you want to talk to the dean of student development? I was like, yeah, let's go talk to him. And he says the exact same thing. He says these are inappropriate, so they confiscate the material. Right then, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to fight this. So I contact Fire. They send basically kind of a cease and desist letter to the school, to the student activities director, the dean of student development, even the president of the school. I had set a time frame of within 2 weeks, if they hadn't reinstated my club, that I was going to sue them. Well, I think a day before that 2-week time period elapsed, I got an email from my advisor, and he said that they had reinstated the club and everything was good. Recently, the person who had gotten all mad about the guns decided to start an Assassin's Club where it has students running around shooting each other with Nerf guns, assassinating each other. And I'm not sure she found the irony in it at all.
You mentioned Students for Concealed Carry on campus. They have an empty holster protest that their groups like to have. One community college in Texas simply banned the empty holster protest, saying that, it was not appropriate speech for a college campus.
Well, they're both very important. I'm kind of partial to the First Amendment.
Why the first over the second?
Just because it just suits me better.
Well, like other college campuses around the country, this issue came up following the 1-year anniversary of the Virginia Tech shooting.
Thousands of students from around the nation wore empty holsters.
There's never any issue over the Students for Concealed Carry on Campus t-shirts. As I understand it, though,
okay. Now, what about the aspect that we heard from Mr. Garcia, that these empty holsters somehow were a problem, that they made students afraid or fearful, and that those students, their opinions had to be taken into consideration?
Well, there's a difference between true threats and simply feeling threatened.
I joined the organization Students for Concealed Carry on Campus at UTA, and then I started attending school here the next semester when we typically have our April empty holster protest.
The ideal behind it was that people would walk up to you and be like, why are you carrying an empty holster? And then you would explain to them about how the campus does not allow you to carry a gun here and stuff like that. But that assumes that most students are already in favor of people doing that, and I don't think they are.
There was another student before Clayton Smith. There was Brent Polis, and there was also John Comstock. Then Clayton Smith last November came on the scene and tried again to apply for a permit. Tarrant County College denied the empty holster protest and told them they could only protest in a designated free speech zone, and they could not wear their holsters. They could only hand out leaflets.
This was the designated free speech zone that TCC was trying to restrict us to. It's this little concrete box over here that we were supposed to have our protest in.
He went on to say not just concerned, but in essence wanting to manage the discussion. I mean, how on earth is this consistent with the First Amendment?
So we figured that the only way we were going to be able to change their policy was through some kind of legal action.
The ACLU became involved in hopes of trying to stave off this case going to trial in January.
I mean, is this a common attitude to have on college campuses? Do you run into this a lot?
Sadly, we do run into this a lot. The idea that people need to be protected from the speech of other people by the university rather than letting social consequences take their course. If that's his idea of free speech, then he just has the principle wrong and he has the law wrong.
In March, Judge Means ruled that they were violating free speech and that the empty holster protests could go forward.
I mean, he talked about the need to provide security at the free speech. We can't have disagreements anymore. We have to have security around.
If you don't have anyone challenging your ideas, if you don't have any kind of competition, then your ideas are going to become weaker.
Now this story is straight out of Pittsburgh. A student by the name of Christine Brashear goes to CCAC, it's a community college in Pittsburgh. She is a strong advocate of gun rights, and she believes that students should be able to carry concealed guns on campus, and she started passing out pamphlets. Now what's interesting about this story is the school administrators were not about to have it. The dean of the community college, her name is Yvonne Burns. She said, "You may want to discuss this topic, but the college does not, and you cannot make us." They said that it was solicitation. They were going to take action against her if she continued to do so.
The mere sight of a cartoon gun printed on a pamphlet could make someone believe that students were going to start dropping out and violence was going to ensue. It's an emotional reaction to an image instead of an informational reaction.
But at Virginia Tech, what was their likelihood of needing to defend themselves that day? You know, anybody who's you don't need to be a law-abiding citizen to show up and wreak havoc.
The fact of the matter is, Christine wasn't doing anything wrong. If she believes that students should be able to carry concealed guns on campus, if she wants to exercise her free speech in talking about it, she should be allowed to.
That's the most important, one of the most important rights that we have as Americans, and if we don't treasure it, if we don't hold it close to our heart, then we're done. We cease to be the free country that we once were.